Hi, hello, good morning to everyone. Myself, I am G. Charan from IRE College, BTech first year. My PPT project is listening skills and strategies. How to listen and how to do a strategy is to listen is to give attention to sound or action. When listening, one is hearing what others are saying and trying to understand what it try to understand what it means. The act of listening involves complex affective, cognitive, and behavioral processes. Affective processes include the motivation to listen to others. Cognitive process include attending to understanding, receiving and interpreting context and relational messages, and behavioral processes include responding to others with verbal and non-verbal feedback. It means that here we can see here when listening, one is hearing what are saying and trying to understand what it means. The act of listening it involves complex affective and cognitive and also behavioral processes. Okay, after affective processes include the motivational to listen. Affective processes have, if someone says that he is telling affective processly, the motivation to listen to others. One person says affective processes motivation, others can hear clearly and they can concentrate to listening. And cognitive processes including attending to understanding, receiving and interpreting context and relational messages. It means that if the cognitive processes includes attending to, they can understand, they can receive, they can interpret contact and relational messages and behavioral processes, including response to others with verbal and non-verbal feedback. It means that who ask a question to others, who is listening, they can give a verbal and non-verbal feedback to who ask the question. Okay. Then listening can be useful skill for different problems, but it is essential to resolve conflicts. Poor listening can lead to misinterpretations, thus causing conflict or a dispute. Other causes can be exclusive interpretations. In attention, hearing what you want to hear, mentally composing a response and having a closed mind. Here listening can be a useful skill for different problems. For that we can do a particular work, we can first hear, then we can do our own and strategies to do a work easily. Then but it is essential to resolve conflict, and poor listeners can lead to ministry reactions that causing conflicts or a dispute. If someone not hears, they they can't hear listening or carefully, they can't do any here. When poor listeners can lead to misinterpretation. This means that which the person who is not listening with listening skills or carefully, he will place a problem, so many problems to that. It may causes misinterpretations, thus causing conflicts of dispute, and it can be called as also dispute. Then other option is other cases can be exclusive interpretations in action, hearing what you want to hear, mentally composing a response and having a closed mind. It means that who and third person who which is have not listening, he is called as mentally or hearly. He have hear problem, hearing what you want to hear, mentally composing a response and having a closed mind. Okay, then listening is also linked to memory. According to one study, during a speech, some backward noises heard by listeners help them recall some of the information by hearing it again. For example, when we are doing something like reading or doing something else while listening to music, we can recall what that was hearing the music later. Here, listening is also linked to memory. Our It's the process, whatever you can hear with listening skill, it can be stored in our memory. According to one study, during a speech, one person have giving a speech from in front of class, near in front of class, someone backward noises are heard by listeners. Who is listening? Who's telling? He is telling that, and backward was making noise. That who is hearing the noise, they can disturb. Then hereby listeners helped them recall some of the listeners has could hear. You can recall some of the information by hearing it again. Uh, for example when we are listening a music and stopped somewhere and asked the listeners who is listening the music, stay say once what the music before it was played. For example, it is an example like that. When the speeches giving a person, listeners were disturbed by who make the sounds from backwards. Then the speech giving person asked the listening that you can guess me that what you have listened backward, what I am speaking back classes. It means that whatever I have finished the line, you can retell it for me. Okay. Then active listening is the practice of preparing. Active listening is the practice of preparing to listen, observing what verbal and non-verbal messages are being sent, and then providing approximate feedback for this sake of showing attentiveness to the message being presented. This form of listening conveys a mutual understanding between speaker and listener. Speakers receive confirmation their point is coming across effectively, and listeners absorb more context and understanding by being engaged. Active listening was introduced by Carl Rogers and Richard Farson. Here, active listening is the practice of preparing to listen. It means that how much you can practice listening, you can able to prepare or speaking the same other to others. It means active listening is a practice of preparing to listen. Means how to you can speak, how to explain, or how to whatever you can tell, and observing what verbal and non-verbal. It means that if someone says something, you can identify that what is verbal or what is non-verbal messages are being sent. It means that someone your guidance is giving you to some quotations or something, some speeches. In that or some lessons, you can get that what is verbal or non-verbal messages are being sent from a guidance, and then pro- uh, providing approximate feedback for the sake of showing attentiveness to the message being presented. It means that whatever he said, you can listen and you can repeat or explain same way what you can hear and what is verbal, what is non-verbal messages, and being approximate feedback for the same showing presented. This form of listening conveys a mutual understanding between, and here this form of listening conveys a mutual understanding between speaker and listener. It means that who can speak, who is speaking and who is listening is that the person who can speak is he can speak correctly. Then he want to understood that the listener who is listening, you can understand non-verbal, verbal messages, and you can speak everything correctly. And when the point here there are connection between speaker and listen. Speaker receive confirmation their point is coming across effectively. Speakers ask question to listeners and listener is listening correctly, he can answer the question of speakers. And listeners absorb more context and understanding by being engaged. He is more understanding and he is telling more than engaged. And active listening was introduced by Carl Rogers and Richard Farson. Okay. Then study skills, academic skills, or study strategies are approaches applied to learning. Study skills are an array of skills which tackle the process of organizing and taking in new information, retaining information, or dealing with assignments. They are discrete techniques that can be learned usually in a short time and applied to all or most fields of study. More broadly, any skill which boosts a person's ability to study, retain, and recall information which assists in and passing exams can be termed a study skill. And this could include time management and motivational techniques. Here, study skills, academic skills, or study strategies are approaches applied to learning. It means that these are keys to learn easily. Study skills are an array of skills which tackle the process of organizing and taking in new information, like retaining information or dealing with assignments. They are discrete techniques that can be learned usually in a short time and applied to all or most fields of study. More broadly, any skill which boosts a person's ability to study, retain, and recall information which assets in a passing exams can be termed a study skill. And this could include the time management of motivational techniques. Okay. Some examples are mnemonics which aid the retention of lists of information, effective reading concentration techniques, and efficient note taking. Due to the generic nature of study skills, they must therefore be distinguished from strategies that are specific to a particular field of study, example, music or technology, and from abilities inherent in the study, such as aspects of intelligence of learning styles. It is crucial in the, however, for students to gain initially insight into their habitual approaches to study so they may better understand the dynamics and personal resistance to learning new techniques. Here some examples are mnemonics and list of effective reading concentration techniques and effective note taking. For examples, effective reading concentration techniques 1 and efficient note taking 2. Due to the generic nature of study skills, they must therefore be distinguished from strategies or specific particular item, like example music or technical technology, and from abilities inherent in the students such as aspects of intelligent learning styles, how they can speak in foreign like foreign language, another language, etc. Whatever it may be. It is crucially in the however the student gain initial insight into habitual approaches and dynamically and personal resistance to learning new technologies. Then the process of informational listening focuses on the ability of an individual to understand a speaker's message, situation needed. It is a huge part of everyday life, and failing to understand the concept of informational listening can be very detrimental to one's quality of life and to their contribution to society. Citation needed. Much of the listening people engage in or regular basics falls under the blanket of listening for information. In the office, people listen to the superiors for instructions about what they are to do. At school, students listen to teachers for information and that they are expected to understand for quizzes and tests. In all areas of life, information listening plays a huge role in human communication. Yeah. The process of informational listening focuses on the ability of an individual to understand a speaker's message. It means that who the speaker is speaking, the listeners want to be focused and ability on a individual understanding, because he cannot having individual and listening ability. He cannot hear and he cannot speak the verbal and non-verbal etc. Whatever it may be, he cannot tell about it. But who the process of information listening is focuses on the ability of an individual to understand the speaker's message. It is a huge part of every daily life, like failing to understand the concept of informational listening can be very determinant to one's quality of the life and their contribution. It means that daily life we can see that some of the persons were speaking to you, and much of the listening people engage in our regular basics falls under blankets listening. Regular people can learn easily. Basics falls under blanket listening for information. In the main head will says that, or officer manager will says that someone to say, he will speak in correct language pronunciation, and it can be he is a speaker and who is doing a job in that office. He is their listeners. He will speak some of the words and they can hear correctly. Okay, for example, at school, students listening to teachers for information that they are understood, expected understood for quizzes and tests. In daily, we can see that in the office, people listen to their superiors for instructions about what they are to do. And in schools, in our daily routine, in all areas, information listening plays a huge role of human communication. A helpful presentation is improving your listening skill started from intro definition, explanation, factors, advantages, process, all the covered in presentations. If you have any question regarding this field, was thank you. A helpful presentation is improving your listening skills, because someone who want to help, you can help them, and you can help them uh, for you are helping, then you can gain correctly that what you are speaking about pronunciation or what you can do, improving yourself like learning skills, listening skill. And then listening is not hearing according to the Elmbrus Center. Elmbrus, listening and hearing are not the same. Hearing is the first stage of listening. Hearing occurs when our ears pick up sound waves which are then transported to our brains. This is our sense of hearing. Listening is a communication process, and to do successfully is an active process. In other words, we must be an active participant in this communication process. In active listening, meaning an evaluation of a message must take place before a listener can respond to a speaker. Therefore, the listener is actively working while the speaker is talking, and speech can hit this happen. But we are careful, don't allow all the through speeds racing, dreaming in the habit. Here, you can learn that listening and hearing are not the same, because hearing is the first stage of listening. Hearing occurs when our ears pick up sound waves which are then transported to our brain. It means that what the sound which we are here to, and it will transfer to brain, then only we can listen and we can explain it. That is difference. And then listening has three basic steps. Hearing just means listening enough to catch what the speaker is saying. Hearing is that who the listener is, that what he is listening, what the speakers have questioned him, then he is immediately says the answer. For example, say you are were listening to a report on zebras and the speakers mentioned that no two are alike. If you can repeat the fact, then you have heard what has been said. Understanding the next part of listening happens when you take what you have heard and understand it now your own way. Let's go to the report on zebras. When you hear that no two are alike, then think about what that might mean. You might think that the pattern of strips is different for each zebra. After you are sure that you have understood what the speaker has said, think about whether it makes sense. Do you believe what you have here? You might think, how could the strips be different for every zebra? But then again, the fingers prints are different for every person. I think this seems believed. It means that who the it means that the speaker who is telling that the listeners are listening, but the listeners have to think that what the speakers are saying is right or no. It means they have saying the sentence, it has a meaning or not. You have to think that. For example, he says that the fingerprints are different for every person. Speaker says that the fingerprints are different for every person. Listeners is think that is correct because I think this seems believable. It means that every person not have same fingerprints because every person have their own fingerprints. Okay, like that we want to know that listening and strategy skills. Okay, thank you.